Okay, we're back with the Rangers, man. We've talked about powerful solo Rangers already, but what we haven't really done is talk about the most powerful Ranger teams. And it's actually a really hard topic to cover, as there are so many of them with such different powers and themes. So, I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and I'm gonna need your guys' help here. I'm not nearly knowledgeable enough to order this list properly, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And coming in at number 10 is the Psycho Rangers. Now, I was about to put the Space Rangers here, but then I remembered the Psycho Rangers. The evil princess Astronema created this group of evil rangers to draw on the power of her master, Dark Spectre, and they were designed specifically to hunt down the Power Rangers. Each Psycho Ranger had a specific fighting style unbeatable by the Ranger that they were the evil version of, and they were even a serious threat to the Ranger team even without all of their members. The Psycho Rangers were used by Astronema not only to defeat the Power Rangers but also to severely weaken Dark Spectre, whom Astronema was trying to overthrow. But then, these guys even got monster forms that they turned into if their Ranger forms were actually destroyed. They have an embedded second wind perk. That's so cool! The Space Rangers had to team up with the Galaxy Rangers to even take out a powered up version of these guys, and it was still a close fight. In the comics, we get to see the origin of the very first Psycho Ranger, Psycho Green, who was actually the Green Supersonic Ranger before he turned, and he served as the right-hand man for the Dark Spectre himself. Number 9. The Omega Rangers. The Omega Rangers were a small but ancient faction or team that are specifically around to operate in the most dangerous and most remote areas of space, and they're powered by the classical elements of fire, water, earth, and air. Now, originally the team was around many millennia ago on the Morphin Master's homeworld of Safe Haven, and they were originally composed of Bledsoe, the Red Fire Ranger, Apophy, the Black Air Ranger, the Purim, Yellow Earth Ranger, Haza, the Blue Water Ranger, and Spark, the Gold Sun Ranger. But Spark turned on his fellow Rangers, being taken over by the possibilities of having death-defying powers. And he became the Death Ranger, which, if you've seen our most powerful Ranger video, which you should, is one of the most powerful Rangers out there, even if he's evil. Despite that, the Omega Rangers were able to stop and imprison Spark, and they were also really cool. I really like them, and they're only in the comics, so check them out. Number 8. The Aquitar Rangers. During the 3rd season of Mighty Morphin's Power Rangers, these aliens, who come from Aquitons, filled in for Earth's original team of Rangers when they were turned into children. And in terms of power, they appeared at least to be equal to Zordon's team, which is absolutely saying something. The other thing is that with a unique group of powers and really cool powerful Zords, this team was able to adequately fill in the gap left by Earth's out-of-commission forces, proving that they were exceptional in their own right, and a team to be reckoned with, particularly when considering how dangerous Rita Repulsa, Zed, and Master Vile were. They held their own, and they came back to reappear in the comics, which was super cool to see. Also, they were the first team that came into Power Rangers lore that showed that the Rangers were not just contained to Earth. They basically opened up the whole Power Rangers universe, and that's too cool for school right there. If you guys are enjoying this list, or me as a host, or the overall vibe here, make sure to check out and subscribe to Top 10 Nerd. It's all just more of the same stuff for nerds like you and us. Coming in number 7, SPD. This might be a bit controversial, I'm not too sure. Some people don't like this, some people do. Power Rangers SPD was just a tiny part of Space Patrol Delta, basically an interplanetary police force that has jurisdiction over the whole galaxy. With that kind of a concept, they get points in the power scales for sure. They rely on an impressive amount of highly advanced technology to bring peace and order to the galaxy. For example, giant, exaggerated police vehicles. Super cool. What's really interesting though is that although major conflicts existed between the characters themselves, like between Jack and Sky, the team still pulled together and became strong enough to juggle multiple intergalactic threats throughout the series. Also, Doggy Kruger as the Shadow Ranger was strong enough to make up for almost any shortcomings the team might have had. And I haven't even touched on the fact that all the members of the B Squad in Power Rangers SPD, so the ones we actually focus on in the show and the comic, have a set of superpowers that they even continue to possess without their Rangers forms. They may not have been able to show their full potential in the show, but they sure as hell put up a hell of a fight. And also, definitely my favorite season of Power Rangers. That's just me. Number 6, Zeo. They derive their powers from a magic crystal whose power keeps magnifying over time. so that kind of automatically ranks them among the strongest. Theoretically speaking, the Rangers could have relied on the power of the Zeo Crystal to defend Earth for like basically forever, and it would just get stronger and stronger as they went on. But to get real here for a sec, production issues with the actual show meant they kind of had to switch to this weird car style, and it kind of brought everything just down a little bit. But despite that fact, the Zeo Rangers are one of the strongest Ranger teams in existence because of their firepower. They had a huge array of new, interesting, and absolutely wacky and weird Zords that could fend off massive attacks orchestrated by the Machine Empire, which itself was one of the strongest set of villains any Power Ranger team has faced ever.
I like to refer to this next one as the other XSE team. This team also spiraled out of a team that we talked about previously on this list, Extreme X-Men. XSE here stands for the Extreme Sanctions Executive. Similar to the original XSE that Bishop was a part of in the future, or in his future, this team is also like a military police force, meant to maintain and in some cases enforce peace is kept between mutants and humans. Storm was asked to create the team by the United Nations and eventually would increase its numbers by recruiting the rest of her X-Men, making this another government-sanctioned mutant team, like X-Factor was originally. Team members have included Bishop, Cannonball, Magma, Rachel Summers, Psylocke, Rogue, Sage, Wolverine, X-23, and Gambit. Now that's a team.
Look, even though the book was cancelled in 1978 after a mere 17 issues, and many people, including the heroes on the team, look at it as an embarrassment, the Champions roster was actually pretty darn capable. With a team of 2 founding X-Men, Iceman and Angel, combined with heavy hitters Hercules, the Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider, and being led by Natasha Romanoff Black Widow, the Champions were aptly named and could kick some serious butt when given the opportunity. The team fought familiar villains like Titanium Man and the Griffin, but even began to develop their own rogues gallery with new villains such as Rampage and Swarm, and they even got an addition to the team in the form of Black Goliath before the book was cancelled. The team was intended to reform in 2007, only they were forced to rename as The Order since Marvel had lost the trademark for the Champions over the years.
You've heard of Green Lanterns, maybe you've even heard of Yellow Lanterns or Red Lanterns or even Black Lanterns, but how about Blue Lanterns? Yeah, that's a color too. Blue Lanterns have only made a few appearances in the new continuity, and even before that, during the New Earth days of DC, they weren't necessarily the most frequent to appear. Mainly, I feel like people just know Green Lanterns, whose color of course represents willpower. To be a Green Lantern, you must be strong in will. So, what's blue about? What's the whole blue thing? To be a Blue Lantern, you must be full of hope. So beautiful. I feel like I could be a Blue Lantern, honestly. If Green Lanterns are like the intergalactic police, Blue Lanterns are like therapists or peacekeepers or priests maybe. They have long been allies to the Green Lanterns, and their powers actually provide a boost to fellow Green Lanterns when they're nearby. Pretty cute. This is because their whole focus is of course on belief and hope, having faith in those around them. As such, many of their names start with a title like Saint, Sister, or Brother. I'd definitely be Sister. Sister Amanda, Blue Lantern. Sister McKnight.
Kind of like the Champions, DC's Detroit League is another team that gets a real bad rap, but actually has a pretty stacked roster when you take a closer inspection. After Aquaman, a charter member of the original Justice League, decided that the Justice League members were too interested in their own individual problems to be part of an effective team, he used his position to disband the team and establish the Detroit League. This new team, with half old-timers and half newbies, was largely used to add some diversity to the DC heroic lineup. Whether it achieved that or not is up to the reader. Made up of League mainstays like Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Zatanna, and Elongated Man, along with newbies like Vibe, Gypsy, Vixen, and Commander Steel, it's often considered the worst roster of the team, but if you actually look at the roster and do some critical thinking, you'll find that it's very powerful indeed. Martian Manhunter and Zatanna alone are absolute powerhouses. Despite the jokes, Aquaman or even Commander Steel both make really effective tanks, and the rest of the team is quite capable in a variation of different situations.
The God Squad is about as powerful as they sound, but they still remain one of the lesser known teams in the Marvel Universe. The team was originally assembled by the Council of Godheads, and first came together during the events of Secret Invasion. The team first formed in the Incredible Hercules issue number 117 in 2008. The original roster included Adam the Demogorge, Snowbird, the Eternal Ajax, and Amatsu Mikaboshi, later known as, of course, the Chaos King. The roster would go on to include such impressive members as Silver Surfer, Galactus, Circe, Thor, Amadeus Cho, and of course, Hercules himself.
Starting off under the water with the Sea Devils. This team was just regular people doing extraordinary things. They appeared in Showcase issue 27 in 1960, but got their own series the next year. The group was made of 4 people: Dane Dorrance, Judy Walton, Judy's younger brother Nicky Walton, and their friend Biff Bailey. The group primarily operated underwater since their job was deep sea diving and treasure hunting. They spent a lot of time living every kid's dream. They fought sea monsters and discovered underwater kingdoms. If I was guaranteed to never drown, I would join this team so quick. The group also fought for the sea on land as environmentalists. They are suggested to maybe be a bit extreme at times with their methods in the New 52 reboot, but they remain allies to Aquaman. The Displaced Paranormals, or DP7, got their powers from the infamous White Event. You could probably guess this from the team name, but there are 7 of them. White Events create new, extremely powerful heroes, and on this particular team, we have a man that can now project an intangible version of himself, a strong man, a speedster, a woman whom whoever she touches would just lose all friction and slide around, a boy who produced acid from his skin, a mom that can energize and heal anyone she touched, and a teacher that could paralyze you with the poison his body produces. The team grew and shrank over time and has had about 40 appearances total. Born out of an atomic fallout, the heroes of Lallor, they are a team of 5 heroes. Their parents lived a bit too close to the site of an atomic fallout and their genes were altered, resulting in their children all being born with superpowers. The kids were sent away from their home planet and decided to come to Earth. Dr. Marden King lied to the young heroes, making them think that the Legion of Superheroes were criminals. The reason? So Doc could avenge his brother's death. When a random group of space people started to attack the Legion, they also thought the heroes of Lallor were bad guys. They fought, but soon realized they were both fighting with good intentions and became friends instead. The powers of each team member were as follows: Beast Boy, turning into any animal, not to be confused though with the more popular Beast Boy, they're different. Gas Girl, she can change her body into any gas. Evolvo Lad, he can make his body go to any point in human evolution, so he can become like an ape or the kind of man humanity can't even imagine yet. Life Last can create living creatures from inanimate objects. And finally, Duplicate Boy, he can duplicate any hero's superpowers. Eventually the team makes it back to their home planet and even gained a new member, Splitter, or Arm Fall Off Boy. Up next, Operation Lightning Storm, a team that shockingly does not include Thor. It did include one of my favorite superheroes, Sleepwalker, and that is how I know about this obscure team that only has about 16 appearances. The team was led by Miss Marvel. After the events of Civil War, Tony Stark had requested that Carol lead the Mighty Avengers, to which she agreed to do, but only if she got a second team too. This team's purpose was to take out villains before they became an Avengers level threat. The team was a covert strike team that could access any SHIELD resource they wanted, even though they weren't technically part of the SHIELD official lineup. Members of the team included Carol Danvers as the leader, Machine Man, Sleepwalker, Agent Sum, Agent Locke, Agent Baines, and Doc Farrell. Notable missions include saving a bunch of kidnapped people in Miss Marvel Volume 2 issue 20, and then erasing a colony of Brood in issue 24. The reason this team has very limited appearances is because they captured an imposter Miss Marvel, that upon discovery of being an imposter, she hit self-destruct and took the team's base down with her. Doc Farrell and Agent Baines didn't make it. G-Force is up next, and I do not mean the unit of acceleration. I am instead referring to the 2009 feature film with its central cast being super intelligent spy guinea pigs. Here's the thing, I thought that we were all locked into G-Force. I thought everyone was also living with the knowledge that this wackadoodle movie exists. Imagine my shock and surprise upon being told that this was obscure media. Please, if you knew about G-Force before now, drop that in the comments section. I should do a poll or something. The official plot synopsis for this film, like the one on IMDb, is a specially trained squad of guinea pigs is dispatched to stop a diabolical billionaire from taking over the world. The FBI had a secret division responsible for training and then dispatching the rodents. Shockingly, the FBI decided that spy rodents wasn't a necessity, so they went to shut it down, causing the small spies to begin their hero's journey. Another reason that I thought everyone was well aware of this movie was because it had a star-studded cast. Some of the people in this movie had no business being in a super guinea pig movie. Bill Nye, Will Arnett, Zach Galifianakis, Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, Jon Favreau, Penelope Cruz, Steve Buscemi, and Tracy Morgan all lent their face or voice to the Disney flick. This was also the first live-action Disney film released in Disney Digital 3D that wasn't a concert film, so G-Force literally made history. Ever since discovering discovering another animal team, the Power Packaderms. They have crossed my mind at least once a week because it was so wild. So they were a team of super elephants. Now here's the thing, it's ridiculous, but that was the point. It was a parody comic of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Later, it was a parody of the X-Men and just general Marvel heroes. The OG team name was the Adult Thermonuclear Samurai Elephants. Iconic. However, not everything went to plan. There were some significant delays, and so Marvel was forced to change the name and said they were now a parody of the X-Men. Either way, the team of four first appeared in Power Packaderms issue 1 in 1989, and that's it. That's all we ever got. The issue itself was a gem. We learned the elephants were supercharged when their train car, bound for the zoo, was unhooked from the train by a monkey, and they happened to jump track to one that leads to a nuclear test zone. Then there's a big explosion that exposes the elephants to radiation, turning them into super elephants. They rejoin the circus briefly before heading off on their own, only to come back together to fight Clarinetto, former head of the Brotherhood of Musicians. The super elephants fight and defeat Clarinetto and his band of celebrity ninja impersonators. It was truly a piece of art.
Number 5, the Super Megaforce. Also a controversial team. But with a name like that, how can they not be powerful? Now before I trigger you Ranger lovers out there, yes, I know the show of this team kinda sucked. They didn't really get individuality, but the comics fleshed them out a bit more, and I mean, their concept? Super Megaforce is one of the strongest teams in Ranger history. A team of Rangers that is completely backed up by all the past Rangers powers in the history of the franchise, including a few we've never seen or heard of before, especially in the comics with the energy manipulating Squadron Rangers. And they even got Zordon's own apprentice as their mentor. How can they not be strong? They're more of an homage to every other team of Rangers, but because of that, they get points for nostalgia on top of their combined power. Coming in number 4 is Mystic Force. Magic. That's all I gotta say. No, I'm kidding. But Mystic Force is technically one of the most powerful Rangers teams ever. Their powers come directly from the Xenotome and ancient elemental magic, and not a lot of teams can say that. These Rangers cast incredibly powerful spells left and right. They wielded the power of really awesome Zords and had what might be the fanciest looking power-ups in Ranger canon with Legend Mode. But then their Red Ranger, Nick, he is amongst the most powerful Red Rangers around, but doesn't hold a candle to his dad, Leanbow, the Wolf Warrior, who also joined the team. Also, capes. They have frickin' capes, and that's really cool. Who else has capes? I don't have a cape. I wish I had a cape. I need a cape. Anyways, number 3, Ranger Sentries. I feel as though some people are gonna hate this being put here because they aren't really technically a team. They're more like an army. The Ranger Sentries were essentially an army created by a corrupted and evil version of Tommy Oliver, the infamous and insanely powerful Lord Drakon. In the world of the coinless and alternate reality, Drakon created a whole army of humans who wore mass-produced Ranger armor. The Mastodon Sentries in their super cool black and white costumes acted as like the police force and the bulk of the army in this world. The pink Pterodactyl Sentries were the long-range sniper infantry and support for the Mastodons. The green Zeo Sentries were the mobile infantry, and they also had these awesome tank mechs. It was so cool. The Silver Space Sentries were the air support, and they had sweet jetpacks, and everybody loves jetpacks, and energy blasters, so obviously super cool. Then we have the Jungle Fury Rhino Sentries, who were essentially tanks, not like the awesome mechs, but like these big hulking strong guys in massive armor. So cool. There were the Blue Samurai Sentries, and they seemed to be like the melee foot soldiers. As a force of them with the Mastodon Sentries invaded the city of Corinth. We also got these awesome Dino Charged Gold Sentries who had these massive shields and like super heavy firepower. They would make up like the shield wall, and they were just so dope. Next up would be the Sabertooth Sentries, who were like the yellow ones, and these seem to act as lieutenants. I don't know. I think that's what they do. It wasn't really clear what they do, but they're a step under the Tyrannosaurus Sentries, who are the Red Rangers of the army. And these guys serve as the personal elite guard of Lord Drakon and the other evil forces like Rita Repulsa and Scorpina. That was a lot, I know, but as you might have picked up, each of these class of soldier were based on a ranger from across the Power Rangers universe after Drakon went through and took the morphers from at least one of every team. Powerful? Absolutely. A team? That's up to you guys to decide, but I'm gonna say yes. Definitely a team. Just a big team. An army, some could say. Number 2, Time Force Rangers. Coming Coming from the year 3000, the technology available to this team of Rangers almost automatically outmatches any of the other man-made Ranger powers in existence, as does their futuristic military-like training. But, I mean, let's be honest. The most obvious show of power here is their ability to travel through frickin' time. Theoretically, if they broke their oath about ethical time travel, which is boring, nearly any adversary they came up against could be thwarted before they ever rose to power in the first place, or before they were even born. Obviously, though, if they messed up, they could ultimately threaten the time-space continuum, so that's pretty bad and they'll most likely stick to the rules, but still. The Time Force Rangers were an extremely strong group. Each Ranger's character had a strong sense of conviction to boot, especially Jen, their leader. And the Quantum Ranger? He made our list of most powerful Rangers for a reason. Also, again, they literally travel through time. That's kind of the main thing here. Time travel is super powerful. And in at number 1, it's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I'm sorry. They fought and teamed up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Godzilla, not to mention the Justice League. This group of teenagers with attitude went up against the Witch, Rita Repulsa, the head of an evil empire, Lord Zed, and even Rita's father, Master Vile. All villains who had enormous armies, resources, and raw magical power. As some of the most skilled fighters in the franchise, the MMPR team would jump headfirst into hand-to-hand combat. They had a slew of ever-developing and exponentially more powerful Zords and weapons to summon if the battle called for it. But, best of all, if the Rangers were forced to retreat, their tremendous resourcefulness would kick in as they worked together to develop a solution, innovate new technology, or just go grab like a long-lost artifact to use, creating a strength where there was once a weakness. So, like, while other teams may have had better power sources and all that fun, fancy, extra stuff, this team always found a way to adapt, kind of like Batman. But they also have the most experienced group of Rangers, especially when we take their comic book counterparts into consideration. Jason Lee Scott, Zach Taylor, Billy Cranston, Trini Kwan, Kimberly Ann Hart, and of course, they had Tommy Oliver.
Number 10, Doom Patrol. This team of freaks were all victims of accidents caused by the scientist Niles Calder. These accidents made the team members outcasts, but also granted them amazing powers, which made them capable of amazing feats. They also have members who would match up well against many members of the Silver Age Justice League. Their leader, Niles Calder, has a tactical brain that rivals that of Batman. Lucius Reynolds can wield magic and is capable of pyrokinesis, which could make him a problem for Martian Manhunter and could dehydrate Aquaman, who in the Silver Age needed to be exposed to water every hour. Danny the Street could make himself a yellow, inescapable void, thus trapping Green Lantern. One of Kay Chalice's personalities can see the future, making her a good candidate to go up against and counter Flash's super speed. Elastigirl's power to grow to huge heights is similar to Wonder Woman's recurring villain Giganta, making them a good matchup, and Negative Man can produce radiation, which he recently used in the latest World's Finest run by Mark Waid to imitate the effects of Krypton's red sun, meaning that he could depower Superman. He could also use this power to give Batman cancer, so all in all, the Doom Patrol is not to be trifled with. Number 9, the Teen Titans. A team consisting of the various sidekicks and young heroes of the DC universe, many fans would assume that the Justice League would have no trouble taking out this team. But I would argue that the Silver Age version of the team is less powerful than most of the more infamous Titans lineups. I mean, Silver Age Batman is the guy who wore a different colored bat suit every night to try and distract criminals from Robin's broken arm. In a fight between him and Nightwing, Tim Drake, or Damian, I would put my money on any of the Robins who have been on the Titans 9 times out of 10. Silver Age Martian Manhunter's weakness is fire? Well, good luck with Starfire. Superman would probably pair up best against Raven, whose magic would give him some trouble. Miss Martian's mind control would be effective against Green Lantern. Between members like Cyborg, Supergirl, Power Girl, and Beast Boy, I think Aquaman and Wonder Woman could be handled. The only leaguer I'm having trouble with is the Flash. Any ideas? Let me know in the comments. Number 8, the Shazamily. Billy Batson, aka Shazam's family of heroes are a powerful force to be reckoned with, and though their youth and inexperience might be a disadvantage if they were fighting the modern league, you have to remember how often the Silver Age heroes made really bizarre, borderline stupid decisions. Superman and Shazam have a history of going toe-to-toe and are pretty evenly matched, so they pretty much cancel each other out. Black Adam is currently a member of the Shazamily, and when he fought Martian Manhunter in the World War III storyline, Black Adam beat him so hard that he left the planet crying. So no issues there. That leaves 5 Shazam family members: Freddy, Darla, Mary, Pedro, and Eugene, all of whom have the powers of Shazam and their magical tiger Tawny against 4 Leaguers: Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Aquaman. This version of Batman isn't really suited for this kind of fight, so whether or not the remaining 3 League could survive would really depend on how long it would take Black Adam to murder Martian Manhunter. Number 7. The Justice Society. Before the Justice League was introduced in 1960, the superhero team of the DC Universe was the Justice Society of America. They helped the Allied forces in World War II and have helped to keep the world safe ever since. This team gets a lot of points against the League due to the technicality we established in the intro. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman were all members of both teams, so won't be considered in this hypothetical matchup. While that removes a lot of the League's heavy hitters, the JSA is still left with a considerable roster that would make them a nightmare for the remaining Leaguers. Black Adam is a member of this team as well, so as stated before, he could handle Martian Manhunter like he did in the World War III storyline. In a fight between Silver Age Aquaman and Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Arthur Curry is coming out of it as fish food. The JSA has their own Flash and Green Lanterns in the form of Jay Garrick and Alan Scott, so that would put the JSA on almost even footing. But once you include additional members like Blue Beetle, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher, and Mr. Terrific, I think the JSA takes it through sheer numbers. Number 6. Young Justice. Yet another beloved team of young heroes who were mostly sidekicks who formed their own team. Young Justice wouldn't last long against the modern Justice League, but once again, you have to take into account the weaknesses inherent to the Silver Age versions of the characters. For example, while you might assume that the first Aquaman, Arthur Curry, would wipe the floor with the new Aquaman and former Aqualad, Jackson Hyde, the Silver Age version of Arthur wasn't summoning leviathans or causing tidal waves, he was riding dolphins and hanging out with an octopus named Topo. As I said in the Titans entry, Tim Drake vs Silver Age Batman is no contest. Teen Lantern might not be a match for Green Lantern, but if any member of the team simply painted themselves yellow, they would probably be fine. Superboy would probably take Superman by surprise with the sheer level of brutality he was capable of, and although he probably wouldn't win, if he teamed up with a character like Sideways who can open rifts to other dimensions, they could probably get him off the board for a while. Martian Manhunter could be trouble, but Jenny Hex's power negation abilities and the sheer power of characters like Amethyst and Naomi McDuffie, I think they could handle him. Wonder Girl and Silver Age Wonder Woman are probably about on par, and Impulse would be able to at least slow down the Flash, but the Young Justice ringer is Summer Pickens, who can dial her H-phone and be replaced with a hero from the Heroverse who can handle the task for her.
Number 5. X-Men. I mean, of course I was going to put the X-Men on this list. Y'all know me, I'm a huge mutant fan. And the premier mutant team in the comics, of course, is the X-Men. I've also loved that over the years the X-Men has become more of a global team than just necessarily an American one. Unlike the Avengers, which has tended to remain mostly American in terms of their prominent team members throughout the years. I mean, most of the people on the Avengers tend to be American, not always, but I feel like the X-Men is a little bit more global in that regard. Although they do also have a lot of American members. I mean, based in New York. It's Marvel Comics. X-Men's current and previous lineup have also been exceptionally strong, and even the OG X-Men roster featured some mutants who are still considered the most powerful even today, and who are still around, of course, in the comics even today. The current roster features Cyclops, Firestar, Forge, Iceman, Havoc, Magic, Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl, and Sync. Honestly, Sync is also alone just so amazing, and it's taken the meaning of teamwork to another level, I think. Sync. Such an underrated character that now is getting his time in the spotlight. Number 4. Eternals. The Eternals are another team that deserve more love when it comes to the comics and when it comes to their powers. They're a team made up of literal immortal beings who are extremely resistant to dying, but up until recently anyways, even if they did die, they would actually quickly return to life thanks to the machine which rebuilds and resurrects them and is integrated, or was integrated, with the planet Earth, which is actually itself a living mechanism of sorts. The Eternals recently had a killer comic series written by Kieran Gillen that I would also highly recommend you check out. This is a series that will make you a fan if you weren't already. The Eternals all also possess a unique power comparable to a powerful ability of mutant villain Apocalypse. They can manipulate and alter their own molecular structure, having complete control of it. And some, like Circe, can even manipulate matter in general, be it organic or inorganic. Number 3, God Squad. The God Squad was brought together to combat another group of gods, the Skrull Pantheon. The team made their first appearance in Incredible Hercules issue 117, but while Hercules would become their leader, they were actually brought together by Athena's command. Although she didn't serve on the team, a bunch of other super powerful individuals and gods did. With Hercules leading, their roster over time also included Thor, Circe, the Silver Surfer, Ajax, Amadeus Cho, Snowbird, Mikaboshi, Adam, Galactus, and Venus. The God Squad only made a few appearances, but I still think they're a super cool team, and I'm still disappointed we didn't get to see them in Thor Love and Thunder. I was kinda hoping. God Squad, but alas. Number 2, the Annihilators. The Annihilators are an insane cosmic team, and you know how I feel about the cosmic world of Marvel. It's probably one of the most powerful areas. The Annihilators first appeared in Thanos Imperative Devastation issue number 1, and were created by Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning, and Miguel Sepulveda, during a time when the Guardians were getting a refresh by Abnett and Lanning in the comics. The team was actually inspired by Star-Lord himself, who had an idea for a truly badass team of galactic Guardians, which Cosmo put into action. The team has featured Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, Gladiator, Icon, Quasar, and Ronan the Accuser. At one point they used their powers to combine two suns together and prevented them from going supernova. So yeah, that's the power level that we're talking about. Number 1, the Defenders. I feel like the Defenders is a team that is often forgotten, but is randomly like one of the best superhero teams we've ever seen from Marvel. Perhaps this also has to do with the fact that none of its members ever really wanted to join or be there, at least not initially. The Defenders was the name given initially to the reluctant team up of the Hulk, Namor, and Doctor Strange, with Strange acting as the de facto leader of the team. Also, just having Doctor Strange as the leader of any team makes it pretty impressive, hence why the Midnight Suns are also on here. When it comes to Avengers teams, he tends to be more elusive, and even solo, he's known for being a powerhouse, so combine him with other powerhouses on a team, albeit ones, you know, in different categories like the Hulk and Namor, and you can see how this team becomes seemingly unstoppable. In fact, I feel like the fact that each of these heroes, you know, kind of has their own thing going on is what makes the Defenders so great. And they've also had a lot of other people join them throughout the years that have also been insane. As long as they all happen to be working together, the Defenders is a pretty great team, which of course, especially in the beginning, wasn't always the case. But hey, they figured it out. Number 10, Gamma Corps. Not to be confused with Gamma Flight, the space program, or the other Gamma Flight, Alpha Flight training team. The Gamma Corps are actually made up of various different Gamma mutates, who basically were initially brought together to be used in hunting down the Hulk, believing him to be responsible for their fates and their mutations. They later learned, however, the truth and ended up turning on the Illuminati as a result. Team members included General Riker, their initial leader, Timothy Wilkerson, known as Prodigy, Gray, Griffin, Mr. Gideon, and Mess. While they were rescued by the Hulk from a Hulk AI and later depowered, I would say that at their height they could stand a chance against a more classic Avengers roster. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by giving us a thumbs up? Number 9, Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts might not be as good at teamwork in some cases, but they are definitely more interesting than the Avengers when it comes to their story, and despite being initially made up secretly of a group of villains led by Baron Zemo, the public even came to accept them as heroes. Over the years, their lineup has changed dramatically, and currently they are actually more of a mishmash of like less heroic folks and more heroic folks, although the fact remains that the Thunderbolts has always remained a more heroic, at least at heart, or at least anti-hero based team. One of their current members also happens to be Spectrum, aka Monica Rambeau, who is known for packing a punch. Number 8, Titans 3. Titans 3 is a group that is similar but different to another one I had on part 1 of my list. It is basically the Defenders, sort of, but also may predate the Defenders, I believe, in terms of their appearance. The Titans 3 only appeared in a couple of issues of Submariner back in the 70s, making their first appearance in issue number 34 and their last in issue number 35. This team was led by Namor the Submariner and was brought together to save the world, as many great superhero teams have been brought together in the past. Joining Namor were the Hulk and the Silver Surfer, so no Doctor Strange here, but still a very powerful team I think, even with only 3 of them. Number 7, Star Masters. Probably not a team you get to hear about often, I'd think, on YouTube, so let me get you up to speed here. Star Masters were brought together by the accusation that Quasar was guilty of murder, having believed to have massacred basically a bunch of people on a starship. Those that made up the team were the ones who believed him to be innocent. I also just love Wendell Vaughn and feel like like we don't really get to talk about him too much on the channel for how powerful he is. Probably because Wendell, aka Quasar, isn't super prominent in the comics anymore these days, especially not Wendell as Quasar, because now we also have Avril. However, Wendell has appeared in the Guardians of the Galaxy series in recent years. While Quasar was obviously on the team, so was Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, Morphex, and Zenith. After Quasar was proven innocent, the team became more focused on maintaining peace throughout the cosmos. Basically, like OP cosmic peacekeepers, which I also just love as a team idea. Number 6. Transformers. Well, it's weird to think of the Transformers as a Marvel team, since, you know, they are with Hasbro. Marvel also happens to be the place where they kinda got their comic book start. And recently, IDW did lose the rights to the comics for Transformers. Although it's lucky for Marvel, and I do love their work, it is a little sad because I was also actually interested in the IDW Transformers stuff, which I guess I could go back and read. Or well, I guess they can't reprint it, so I'd have to find old stuff. Oh well. I'm sure there's still lots of awesome stuff in store in the future for Transformers comics, no matter who the rights belong to, because they're just a really cool property. And either way, the team will remain unstoppable. I'm still waiting for an Avengers vs Transformers event, so hopefully that is something we could also see in the future.
Number 5. Justice League Dark. This subset of the League is dedicated to dealing with supernatural or mystic threats to the Earth and has many of DC's most powerful magic wielders as members. Wonder Woman was a member of both teams, so she won't be considered in this entry. A member like Deadman, who can possess people, would be a good way to take out the Flash. The demon Etrigan almost killed the modern Batman in Kevin Smith's Widening Gyre, so Silver Age Bats is totally screwed. He's also yellow, so he could cause a lot of problems for Green Lantern. Superman's magic weakness would make him particularly vulnerable to all of the members of this team, but mostly Zatanna. And don't tell me you wouldn't love to see Silver Age Aquaman go up against the chain-smoking magic wielder John Constantine, who could just use magic to dehydrate him. All that leaves is Martian Manhunter, while the Dark Justice League still has a surplus of fighters like Dr. Fate, Swamp Thing, and Enchantress, just to name a few. Number 4. The Legion of Superheroes. The Legion of Superheroes are a massive team of superpowered people from various worlds in the 30th century. They have a history of traveling through time to team up with a young Clark Kent and preventing disasters before they happen. Unfortunately for the League, this means that their most powerful member is benched for this round. A Legion member like Element Lad, who can transmute common elements, like water, into other things, could take out this version of Aquaman pretty fast, while the Chemical Kid's ability to affect the chemical reactions in the body would cause Batman to go into toxic shock. Dragonwing can breathe fire, which would make Martian Manhunter have some issues. Despite Superman being off the board for both teams, the Daxamite Mon-El has a very similar power set to the Man of Steel and would be a real challenge for Wonder Woman, especially if he teamed up with another member of the team, Superman's son John. There's no one hero who could break the Flash's stride, but considering there are like 24 Legion of Superhero members I haven't mentioned, the Legion would take this fight over the original Justice League through sheer numbers. Number 3. The Bat Family. So obviously Batman is off the table for this pair-up of the League versus the various sidekicks that Batman has trained over the years. While I don't think that the modern Bat Family could take out the original League in open combat, their experience over the years in guerrilla tactics and their access to a Bat computer full of plans designed to take out way more powerful versions of the League's heroes would give them a definite edge. But even if we take away those plans as they were developed by Batman, the Bat Family has the know-how to formulate effective contingency plans of their own. In the recent Robin and Batman miniseries, we learned that coming up with plans to take out superpowered beings was one of the first lessons Dick Grayson was taught when he was introduced to the Justice League and the Teen Titans. Characters like Tim Drake and Damian Wayne have shown a keen tactical mind, with Damian repeatedly bragging about how he would plan to take out the superheroes of the League. These Robins, teamed with other members like the various Batgirls, Batwing, Signal, and Huntress, would be more than smart enough to come up with their own plans to take out the Silver Age heroes of the League. We know they have access to Kryptonite, although Damian claims to have a plan to defeat Superman in the comics that is magic-based. Dick Grayson beat up Green Lantern as a child in All-Star Batman and Robin after painting an entire room and himself yellow, so Nightwing would have no issues as an adult going up against the Silver Age version of the character. I like the mental image of Silver Age Aquaman having to try and go 10 rounds with the Red Hood, and although Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Wonder Woman would be difficult to deal with, the Bat Family could take them out, and I know how cliched this sounds, if they had enough prep time. Number 2. The Green Lantern Corps. This intergalactic group of space cops use the power of will to fuel their Green Lantern rings, which allow allow them to create powerful constructs limited only by the user's imagination. Well, the logic I've used so far on this list on how other heroes could defeat Silver Age Green Lantern may initially sound like something the Silver Age League could use to their advantage, this weakness no longer affects the modern Green Lantern Corps. It was revealed that the weakness yellow was due to the being Parallax being trapped in the Green Lantern's central power battery on the planet Oa and causing an impurity. This impurity has since been removed, meaning that the League painting themselves yellow wouldn't help them. Both the Corps and the League obviously lose Hal Jordan due to him being on both teams, but that still leaves dozens of Green Lanterns for the 6 remaining Leaguers to try and deal with. While having the Flash, Wonder Woman, and Superman would make the League last longer than you might think, the sheer size and power of the Green Lantern Corps, with powerful members of later iterations of the League such as John Stewart and Guy Gardner, would make the Justice League outmatched. But maybe we'd get to see Batman take out Guy Gardner with a single punch again before it happened. Number 1. The Superman family. The Superman family might just be one of the most OP superhero teams in the DC universe, with many of its members having the same powers as the Man of Steel. In this hypothetical matchup, the Silver Age Justice League simply wouldn't stand a chance. Not only do they lose their most powerful team member due to the technicality, but they have to go up against heroes like Supergirl, Superboy, and the John Kent Superman. I think Kara Zor-El is the most interesting matchup against this version of Wonder Woman, and that Power Girl could take out Green Lantern with John Kent wiping the floor with Silver Age Aquaman. Martian Manhunter would be dangerous with his mind control, but a bolt of heat vision from Superboy would probably be sufficient. The Flash is tricky but by no means impossible to defeat in his Silver Age iteration, and honestly the biggest threat to the Super family would be Batman with his kryptonite. But Lana Lang's Superwoman is not affected by this, so she should be okay. Anyone left over from the fight would be in no condition to keep going for long, which is when the last line of defense would kick in. A super dog, cat, and monkey, all with the powers of the Man of Steel. Honestly, the Superman family is so powerful that even the modern version of the Justice League would have trouble triumphing over them if it ever came to blows between the two groups.
Number 10. Alpha Flight. This might be a controversial way to start off this list, but I truly do believe that Alpha Flight can be more powerful than the Avengers team, especially if we're talking about consistent teamwork, which the Avengers members sometimes struggle with due to, well, butting heads with each other. I mean, people on the Avengers have straight up killed their other teammates before. That is just a fact. I mean, I did a whole list about the amount of times Iron Man has been basically killed by his teammates, and after talking it over with Andrew, it seems like Alpha Flight also has a better system in place for making sure their team not only works smoothly, but also that members are well trained before even earning their place on the team due to the existence of both Beta Flight and Gamma Flight, which were initially used as training teams. Although Gamma Flight has kind of become something else in recent years, but yes. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by giving this video a little like? Click that thumbs up. Number 9. Midnight Suns. Midnight Suns is basically Marvel's main magical team. At least currently that's who we got. Midnight Suns typically deal with threats that are more mystical or supernatural in nature. They were brought together initially by Doctor Strange to fight against Lilith and her small army of demonic offspring known as the Lilin, which I mean, of course this team would be brought together by Doctor Strange, right? Each member of the original team roster had interacted with the Lilin before, which was what tied them all together. Team members and leaders have included Doctor Strange, Wong, Blade, Morbius, Magic, Nico Minoru, Wolverine, Zoe Laveau, Kushala, Dr. Voodoo, Elsa Bloodstone, multiple Ghost Riders, Hannibal King, Hellstrom, Iron Fist, Man-Thing, Jennifer Kale, Ben Reilly, Victoria Montesi, and Werewolf by Night. It's a lot of supernatural and mystical people. Number 8. Web Warriors. The Web Warriors are a fantastic multiversal team that spun out of the events of Spider-Verse. But even before they existed in the comics, they and the Spider-Verse were inspired by the team-ups of multiversal Spider-Man in the 90s Spider-Man animated series. The Web Warriors were brought together by the multiversal threat of the Inheritors, who hunted down various alternate spider people, known as Spider Totems, across the Marvel multiverse. After they were defeated during the Spider-Verse event and the dust had settled, the Web Warriors were created to defend those worlds, who were left afterwards without a hero. Considering how powerful Peter Parker's Spider-Man is, I think you can understand how a team made up of various alternate versions of the character would be off the charts when it comes to their power level. I mean, Spider-Man himself is pretty crazy, like a team of Spider-Men. I wish we had an Avengers team that was actually just like different spider people. That could be pretty cool. Number 7. Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four, despite being often smaller in number, though they have expanded beyond that number over the years, is still mightier, I'd say, than the Avengers. But I also feel like that's to be expected. After all, the FF were one of the first first Marvel teams and are referred to fondly as Marvel's first family. So if anything, I consider them kinda like the first team. The Fantastic Four usually is made up of the 4 initial friends and relatives who are forever changed by exposure to cosmic rays during their first voyage out into space. At least that's the original origin story. The team has had countless heroes join their ranks here and there over the years. Well, you know Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and the Thing. Some other members on the FF roster have included the Hulk, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, Storm, She-Hulk, Nova, Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, Crystal, and Black Panther, among others. Number 6, the Quiet Council. They aren't really a team of superheroes, but the title of this video is simply Marvel Teams More Powerful Than the Avengers, and the Quiet Council, I would consider them to be a team still. They're a team of folks in the Marvel universe. Granted, their team is more about protecting their power and their nation of Krakoa, but hey, I think it still counts. The Krakoan Quiet Council as such is composed of not just mutant superheroes, but mutant villains as well, as Krakoa is said to be a place for all mutants, where past misdeeds are forgiven in the name of creating a better tomorrow and a safe haven for all mutants. Current members include some of the most prominent, iconic, and powerful mutants in all of existence: Destiny, Hope Summers, Storm, Exodus, Professor X, Emma Frost, Mr. Sinister, Captain Kate Pryde, Mystique, and Sebastian Shaw. Formerly, the council also featured such additional powerhouses as Apocalypse, Magneto, and Jean Grey, besides.
Wetworks, originally called Team 7, was a team published by Image Comics, which was later DC. Wetworks likely got its name from the actual term, meaning work involving the targeted elimination of an individual, so you can probably guess the team's vibe. If you guessed a covert operations team in the Wildstorm universe, then you get a gold star. Jackson Dane is team leader. Dane's team was sent out to raid a cave, but the cave was already raided when they got there. Nothing left except tubes filled with a mysterious gold liquid. Important to note, the team had a lot of remote controlled weapons on them that happened to start a countdown to detonate when they were inside. So yeah, everything goes so wrong so fast. The tubes get broken, the liquid gets on the team and surrounds them, and then the explosives go off. But it turns out the liquid acted like protective armor because it was Sims. Adding a Sim to someone automatically makes them cooler, but you know what makes them even cooler than that? When they also fight vampires. Where did that come from? I don't know, we've lost the plot a little bit, but I'm not mad about it. Wetworks has been running across Eastern Europe, single-handedly preventing a Twilight remake. They lost members along the way, even temporarily stopped their mission, but they regrouped and were called to Utah, of all places. Turns out someone was trying to make a Daemonite vampire hybrid. In the ensuing fight, the Sims all mutated and the Wetworks team started getting new powers and saved the day. Now you've heard of the Avengers, but turns out they weren't the first Avengers team Nick Fury created. Avengers 1959 were the OGs, and the team was all villains. Earth's mightiest heroes were, I guess, technically named after Earth's biggest headaches. Somehow I feel betrayed by this info, and I don't really have any personal stake in this game. The 1959 Avengers team was created by Nick Fury at the order of President Eisenhower. Team Constants include Nick Fury as leader, Sabretooth, Kraven the Hunter, Dominic Fortune, Namora, Bloodstone, and Silver Sable. This Avengers team is super interesting to me because, well, I love the vintage aesthetic, but also, Nick, what are you doing? Quite a few of the people on this team are certified menaces to society. I guess they were right for the missions they went on, which was like defeating Red Skull and his Yahtzee with an N Captain America, but Sabretooth? The team's efforts were pretty much focused on defeating various bad guys that belonged to the Yahtzees. Because the Avengers did so much good defeating all those bad guys, Nick pardoned all the past crimes of the team members. Controversial choice, but okay. The team operated in the 1950s but debuted in 2011. Dynamic duo Blue Falcon and Dynomutt of the Scooby-Doo extended universe are criminally underrated. They are literally just a guy and his dog out to save the world. Blue Falcon is a parody of Batman, specifically inspired by Adam West's. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he's so good at what he does, you would never need to know that. Blue Falcon and Dynomutt have appeared in their feature film Scooby-Doo Mask of the Blue Falcon, among other Scooby-Doo media, including my favorite version in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. In that show, Blue Falcon was Radley Crown, a security guard at Quest Labs with a taste for adventure, love for birds, and his trusty security dog sidekick Reggie. One day a villain broke in and Reggie was fatally wounded. Mr. Crown fought for his dog, and that is how he became the literal crime-stopping machine, Dynomutt. Now, he can create anything from his mechanical mechanical body with absolutely no limits. Blue Falcon is this huge, incredibly strong, intelligent man, bit rough around the edges, but you don't really mind. He's got all the gadgets, including a Falcon car and a bird-themed utility belt. The duo has taken on at least 30 guys at once without even breaking a sweat. And finally, the challengers of the unknown are very interesting to me. They were a bunch of normal guys with above average jobs on a plane that were flying to go be guests on a radio show called Heroes. We had a master of skin diving, a circus daredevil, an Olympic wrestling champion, and a trained jet pilot and war hero. Quite the mix of people. Of course, the plane went down, but the Fab Four survived. After the crash, they all have that like, wow, we almost passed on moment, and decided that they should challenge the unknown together, live life to the fullest. Challenging the unknown is really what these guys did. They were a for-hire service, so they got hired once to open Pandora's box. Pandora's box is something you famously should not open. However, they were offered $1 million, so I get it. These guys start kind of taking on jobs that are too out there for others to handle or just too hard. They worked with the Pentagon of all places. They had created their home base in a mountain. The personification of evil actually came by and blew that up. At a certain point, the team just really did not catch a break. Eventually, there are new team members, a games designer, physicist, NASCAR driver, commercial pilot. What I love about this DC team are the people on the team are people. They had semi-regular jobs and just decided to start conquering challenges despite not receiving any superpowers.
Back in 2009, Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four takes a little trip to the inhuman city of Atalan, searching for the Infinity Gems. The massive teleporting inhuman bulldog Lockjaw happens to stumble on the Mind Gem and is granted telepathy. Using this telepathy to read Mr. Fantastic's mind, he decides to use his other power to go and round up the other gems. Along the way, Lockjaw runs into Hairball the cat belonging to Speedball, the dragon Lockheed, the companion of Kitty Pryde, Redwing, Falcon's pet Falcon, Throg, a frog with the powers of Thor, Zabu, the saber-toothed tiger ally of the Savage Lands Khazar, and Miss Lion, May Parker's dog. Despite the fact that this team are literally just super pets, they decide to team up as the Pet Avengers, and they go off to assemble the Infinity Gems as part of a 4-part limited series. A more recent Earth 616 version of the team from 2021 consisted of Lockjaw, Throg, and Lockheed still, but this time accompanied by Doctor Strange's ghost dog Bats, and Hugin and Munin, the Ravens of Thor, formerly belonging to Odin.
This X-Men team and roster, the Extreme X-Men, marked the return of Chris Claremont to the X-Men in a full-time capacity. Extreme X-Men Volume 1 is a series that started in 2001 and ran until 2004. It was a team that featured my girl Rogue as leader, who is soon going to be the leader of the X-Men again, or a X-Men team, which you know I'm all about because I love Rogue. The original Extreme X-Men roster features Beast, Psylocke, Bishop, Storm, Sage, and Thunderbird. Lifeguard, Gambit, and Slipstream were also added into the mix throughout the series. This team was originally brought together to find Destiny's premonition-filled diaries, but of course along the way was distracted by many other imminent threats, as happens when you're an X-Men team.
There have been several incarnations of the Outsiders in DC Comics, and most have been Batman or Batman family related, with one team even being led by Nightwing. The first ever version of the team came in 1983 after Batman gained a rather uncomfortable standing with the Justice League. The team had some notable moments, particularly because of its new characters like Katana and Geoforce. Batman and the Justice League would patch things up, and so he left the team to continue operating without him. During that time, they were operating in Markovia in order to receive funding and then moved to Los Angeles before they reunited with Batman and gained access to a Los Angeles Batcave. The last version of the team came following Batman Rip in 2008, where Alfred put together the team with each member representing a part of Batman's legacy, but obviously Batman actually never really bites the dust permanently, so that didn't really last.
Cape Sync is a superhero team, or really a superhero agency I guess I should say, from the same world as Invincible. In fact, as early on as issue number 8 of the Invincible series, you can see some of their members featured in the background. Not only that, but they also ended up getting their own spin-off comic as well. Although I believe it only lasted 3 issues total. It was a miniseries. You know, that's how it goes sometimes. Though there were Cape Sync backup stories I believe in certain issues of Invincible as well, so if you really like it you can also check those out, which also told the team's story. The miniseries centered initially around Bolt, who welcomes a new recruit to the team as his partner. The team is more like a business and kind of seems to operate kind of like a superpowered police station or a police office. People even get paid and everything. Kid Thor is the new kid in town who joins up with Bolt. Bolt, we learn initially wanted his name to be Black Samson, but obviously that name was already taken by the Guardians of the Globe members, so alas, it was unavailable when he joined up with Cape Sync, and that's why he's Bolt.
The team known as ForceWorks was formed by Iron Man, who had left the Avengers due to a dispute as to the role of superhumans. ForceWorks maintained the outlook that rather than being a reactionary force, they should try to preempt both natural and man-made disasters. The team was initially composed of Iron Man, US Agent, Spider-Woman, Julian Carpenter, Scarlet Witch, and Wonder Man, which in my opinion is such an interesting group of heroes. But by the end of their first mission, Wonder Man was thought to be deceased at the hands of the invading Kree, and shortly after the alien Sentry took his place, only to be completely forgotten when the team disbanded. The team fought in several skirmishes, but really only lasted about 2 years. The characters were mainly reabsorbed into the ranks of the Avengers afterwards.
Number 5. Multiversal Masters of Evil. The Multiversal Masters of Evil were actually powerful enough to defeat the Avengers. So this one, actually the proof is in the pudding in this case. The Multiversal Masters of Evil were actually powerful enough to defeat the Avengers, or rather the Avengers of 1 million BC, aka the prehistoric Avengers, but still, even when they went back in the day, the first Avengers were still some of the most powerful people on or off the planet of Earth, so I feel like that's still really impressive. I know before, in part 1, some people in the comments wanted to know which Avengers team we were comparing these other teams to. We're like, how can you compare them if you're not telling us the parameters, Amanda? Well, you know, I don't really have a lot of time to go through the parameters, but what I will say is I'm more thinking of these teams in comparisons generally speaking, so meaning any and all versions of the team can really be contrasted to each other. No specific parameters per se, although I am leaning more towards like classic Avengers, I guess when I'm thinking of it. These are more teams that would just be considered more powerful than at least one of the Avengers rosters. And we already know the Multiversal Masters of Evil succeeded there because they already beat the prehistoric Avengers. The Multiversal Masters of Evil are different from the standard team, and they actually include Doom Supreme, King Killmonger, Black Skull, Dark Phoenix, Ghost Goblin, and Kid Thanos. Number 4. Squadron Supreme. Squadron Supreme is kind of like Marvel's version of the Justice League. And I know what you're thinking, but wait a minute, Amanda. I thought the Avengers was like Marvel's version of the Justice League. Well, yes and no. The Avengers team doesn't really have powerhouses in the same way as the Justice League does, and Squadron Supreme kinda does that a little bit better than the Avengers does, if we're comparing. Marvel even went so far as to rename the alternate reality version of them that also appeared in 2021's Heroes Reborn event the Squadron Supreme of America. Get it? Like the Justice League of America. Their ranks typically include Nighthawk, Dr. Spectrum, Blur, Hyperion, and Warrior Woman or Princess Power, whatever name she's going by, aka Zarda Shelton. She goes by both depending on which version of her we're talking about. Number 3. The Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club might not be one of the first picks you have when you think of a team that can take on and defeat the Avengers, but you know me, I'm always thinking about mutants and mutant teams. And it is important to note that before the Phoenix became a member of the Avengers team, and before the Phoenix Force was retconned to be a part of Thor's origins, it was well known for its attachment to the X-Men, and specifically one mutant in particular who was a member, Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl. In fact, the Phoenix Force is an entity that was created by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum, and one of the first places where the Phoenix Force became fully unhinged was during the Phoenix's time at the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club was once a well-known villainous organization that was committed to using wealth and influence to manipulate and eventually conquer the world, sort of. Currently, the organization has been rebranded though, and presents as being a business that leans more towards heroic pursuits, but still often profitable pursuits. Number 2. Nova Corps. When you think about it, the Nova Corps, despite having been destroyed by the Universal Church of Truth, is probably one of the most powerful organizations or groups likely in the universe. Originally, they were known as Xandar's Line of Defense, but as they grew, they ended up expanding the area under their protection, eventually extending to the whole of the Andromeda Galaxy, and I mean at least part of the Milky Way, as Earth also fell under their jurisdiction, where they, decided to take it under their wing. And while yes, as of Annihilation Scourge, they may be gone right now, with only Richard Rider as Nova surviving, it's more than likely that we will eventually see them return in the comics at some point. And usually when we do, I mean, they're just really powerful, so we should acknowledge that. Number 1. Elders of the Universe. The Elders of the Universe are some of the oldest beings to exist out in the universe. In fact, they are so old that in some cases their origins remain a mystery to us to this day, lost to time. They don't always work together, preferring sometimes to kind of do their own thing, but when they do end up joining forces for anything, they're also also pretty unstoppable. They have worked together to take on Galactus and were for a while holders of the Infinity Stones back when they were known as the Infinity Gems in the comics. And in fact, I feel like if they came together to protect those, maybe Thanos would have never taken them? I don't know. Among the Elders of the Universe are the Challenger, the Champion Trichoslaterus, Ego, the Living Planet, the In-Between, the Collector, the Grand Master, the Profiteer, and Lady Karina Korvac, the wife of one of the Avengers' greatest enemies, Korvac. There's also a lot more of them out there than we know, which means if they were to all assemble, it would likely be a scary time for just about everyone else in the Marvel Universe. It would be pretty scary.